Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Economic Times listening sessions with me, Luke Kenny. It's an ET Edge initiative. Uh, this is going to be our first episode for today, and I could not be more happier than to have my first guest as an old friend, a great musician, and a fantastic colleague, Mr. Ram Sampath. Ram, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me on, Luke. It's a pleasure, man. Anything you do, I'm always on it.
Thanks very much for that. It's been quite a while. I mean, you haven't met for quite a while as well, also, and then to finally meet like this virtually, it's some magic of technology, I say.
Yeah, it is, man. It is. It's surreal also. These are surreal times.
Yeah, I mean, did you ever think that this would happen in our lifetime? You know, being staying
Uh,
days on end.
yeah, but the thing is, every time, if somebody wrote a plot like this in 2019, people would tell them like, man, come up with something else. It's such a stale plot because we've seen so many of these kind of apocalyptic scenarios emerging. And we've seen so many of these apocalyptic shows and stuff like that, but it's actually here and it feels so weird because you don't even know what you're fighting. It's so odd.
Yeah, absolutely. And then for to be keeping on being told that okay, you can't go out for another 2 weeks, you can't go out for another 2 weeks, and every time it's just extending, and you're wondering like when will we finally get to go out and do whatever we need to do? When does business need to restart, and all of that stuff?
Yeah, man. I for one, I'm ready to go back to work. I mean, this is. I mean, there's a point at which you have to start trusting that things will take care of themselves.
Yeah. But you do have a home studio setup as well, also, right? Or you don't bring your work?
It's no, it's bare bones, man. Earlier, what used to happen is that my studio was at home, and it got there was a point where it just got all blurred. I used to wake up and go fall into work, and then I used to crash at work, and it was absurd. I used to go from work to work. So yeah, so now I had to separate it out, and I don't have a home studio. As a result of which, I'm just working off a laptop, and I have to tell you, man, it's amazing. It's beautiful. I love this stripped down version of life. It's amazing. I mean, I think this is the template for the way forward.
And I think this is probably, when they say step back and look at the big picture, this is the, nature telling us to step back and look at the absolute big picture
100%.
in the most
100%.
way possible. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think we also have to recalibrate what we think of economic progress, what we think of actual progress, versus human progress. I mean, there has to be some value put on happiness. There has to be some value put on quality of life. I mean, look at the way the whole earth is glowing right now, and it's because we are indoors. What a shame. What have we been doing?
I mean, what better way for nature to give us the evidence that you humans are the problem?
Exactly. Exactly. I couldn't agree with you more, man.
But so then, I mean, okay, now that you have a stripped down version of work at home,
Mm.
and obviously you've got projects which are lined up and which need,
Mm-hmm.
their execution and their rollout time as well. Also,
Mm-hmm.
how has this, lockdown period affected all of those deadlines?
Well, it's killed all the deadlines simply because, yeah, it's just straight up murder. Because you don't know what it's going to take to finish a project because there's so many people involved in a project, right? And in fact, even you know how it is. Even with the number of producers on a project, there's so many opinions. So to get a consensus and to move forward, I think that's also been one of the beautiful things that's happened is that I think a lot of people have stopped being petty and a lot of people are just willing to let go and say all right, this is what we can achieve at this point, and it's good enough, let's move forward. And I think it's going to help storytelling, it's going to help music, it's going to help art in general if we start relying on human ingenuity rather than technology, because you can hear that even in the music of 2020. It's so technology driven, it's all metronomic, rather than the kind of music really comes alive when it breathes, when there's spaces and you can feel the spaces between the notes, you can feel the spaces between the sounds. But we were heading more and more towards an auto-tuned culture, and this I think is going to bring that back to a certain organic middle ground, which I think is great.
No, since you mentioned the auto-tune culture, I mean, that's a function of technology, and that technology everybody has at their fingertips anyway. So,
Yeah, of
regardless
course.
of whether is organic or not. It's just a click of a button that activates that technology and creates that auto tune
Yeah, but
voice.
look, that's a deliberate choice.
Yeah.
That's a deliberate choice. That's great. I have no problem with autotune. I understand autotune when it's a deliberate choice. But the problem is when it's a crutch, when you don't have the skills and you still want to sound perfectly in tune. And there's too many great singers out there for mediocre singers to be kind of getting by. So I think you're seeing a lot of that happening right now, especially with the lockdown videos, the lockdown video culture. So many people just singing into their phones and they sound so good.
Hmm.
It's been a time for, I think, for artistry to shine. And I mean that even in the sense of rappers, writers. I mean, I'm genre agnostic. I love everything, man. Music is music. It's all good.
A lot of the Bollywood music labels, let's say, I mean, we know the two or three big ones that exist. They've kind of like got on board, in-house ghost producers
Yeah,
who do their bidding and do a factory production every time as well as that.
yeah.
Does that shut out a lot of original work? Does that give people like you, when you see that there's so much more that can be done, but then there are people who just don't want to do it? Does that
Oh
kind
yeah,
of
for sure. For sure. Look, you were there when we were having these conversations even in the 90s when I had done Tanha Dil with Shan. And it was such a strange deal then because I remember we had done Loveology. And I think I'd done Loveology when I was 17 or 18, dude. Like, I think I'm maybe 19 years old when I finished the album.
wow,
And yeah, and we had put that record out and we realized that in India, nobody takes, I mean, I don't even mean to say this, nobody takes non-film dance music like teeny bop music seriously. I mean, there was no audience for it then. Maybe now, I think maybe the Korean pop guys have some audience. I don't know what the scene is now, but then I realized that you have to make a song that emotionally moves people if you want to have any sort of emotional resonance with the Indian audiences, especially with non-pop music. So I had worked on Tanha Dil and we crafted the song. The record company did not believe in it at all. Not
really
at all. Yeah, I mean, dude, my money was held back until it released. Uh, yeah, like I mean,
signature songs. He's built his whole career on Tanha Dil.
yeah, that's right. But the thing is, I mean, at that point, it was just Shan and me against everyone, man. I mean, it was literally that because nobody believed that the song had commercial potential. Whereas, I mean, for me, that was always the lead song. In fact, we should have made more songs like that on that album. But what we ended up doing is we ended up hedging our bets and making like 50% dance music, 50%. So it was
Yeah,
just
one for them, you kind of
yeah,
thing.
one for them, one for us, but it doesn't work on one whole album. You know what I'm saying? That's the reason why when you listen to Lucky Ali's Suno, it's such a beautiful record because it's all in one vein. Whereas on Shan's record, I think we had Tanha Dil, we had Bhulja, and we had a couple of other tracks that were in the same zone. And they all did, I mean, Tanha Dil and Bhulja both did really well. And since then, my request to record companies has always been nurture great songwriters. Nurture great songwriters because the song is the big thing. The song is really what makes the artist. It's what makes the record companies. I mean, can you imagine any of the great artists without their songs? It's just not possible. I mean, that's really what makes Elton John, Sting, all the people that we love and we grew up listening to. It's really the songs that make the artist and give the artist their identity. But it's never been a culture of nurturing songwriters. I remember, like, for example, one of my favorite songwriters, one of my favorite composers is Sandesh Shandilya. And when he had put out Pia Basanti Re
Awesome.
with the, yeah, what a song that was, man. I was like, oh goodness, this is a great song. Who is this guy? Like, you give him a little encouragement, put him in a room with some, and make sure that his bills are paid and get him to write some great songs. He'll give you phenomenal songs. Then you can spread that across many artists and you'll have a scene. But the trap that Bollywood, that non that indie pop fell into in the 90s, Bollywood has fallen into now,
Absolutely.
primarily because of that kind of myopic behavior. Because Bollywood was earlier, I mean, especially the Bollywood music companies earlier were protected by the Bollywood movie producers, because the Bollywood movie producers were playing the roles of almost like music producers. So they
Absolutely.
were like, okay, so we need like hit songs, and they would get hit songs out of these composers.
Yeah, and
But
they were dictating everything anyway. कि, अरे यार उसको यहाँ पे बदल दो, उसको वहाँ पर बदल दो. So that's what would happen. The producers would dictate
exactly.
the director of how a song should shape finally.
Oh, completely, man. I can tell you the funniest stories about them because I mean, my life is full of those kind of stories. I mean, the most strangest, yeah, the strangest briefs that ended up with the strangest songs.
But one contemporary music producer and songwriter and creator who's managed to hold his own in terms of musical integrity is Amit Trivedi.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Kind of kept that whole, you know, his sound again, and not going down to, not bowing down to the typical stuff. I mean, the whole score of Bombay Velvet is fantastic jazz,
Yeah,
which
it's beautiful.
nobody recognizes.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. And the thing is, he's one of those guys. He's very conscious of his legacy and his artistic integrity, and that's why we're also proud of him. You know, I mean, he's got that. He's the next generation. And we're really proud of someone like Amit, because he's sticking to his guns. He's got his own record label now. He's pushing his own music. He's trying to do his own thing with folk music. It's just it's a phenomenal effort in a very tough scenario right now, increasingly tough scenario.
I think it's. I mean, I think now, because of the way how technology has demolished the whole music business, so to speak,
Hmm.
and now the lockdown and the whole virus thing, he has even, you know, sent it further into a different corner that it cannot really come out of.
Yeah.
There is an independent spirit, that a whole different kind of independent spirit that has emerged, and it's allowing people like you, people like Amit, people like all the other independent who are doing music which is not really typical Bollywood, to regenerate and research in a whole different way. Do you see that happening to you in the future, where now there are no producers who can dictate a sound, there are no music labels who can say boss humko चार गाने चाहिए लेकिन सारे गाने ऐसे होने चाहिए, because they don't have to worry about CD sales or physical sales, right? They just
Yes.
have to think about licensing the content to streaming platforms.
Absolutely.
So you are free to create with a little more variety and panache.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the future. I think that's the future template for Bollywood, and you can already see that with artists like Pratik Kuhad. I'm so proud of that kid. He's amazing. I love his music, and I love the way he's working with Bollywood, because he's like, you take me on my terms. It's not the first time it's been done. It's also been done by someone like Jagjit Singh. Jagjit Singh was a ghazal superstar, and he would license his music to Bollywood. He'd be like, you want my music? It will be my sound, my way, the way I sing it, completely his terms. And we forget that. I mean, like in India, we've had ghazal superstars. We've had Pankaj Udas and Anup Jalota. These guys may not be the hippest names in town, but they are hip cats. I mean, I've,
No, and
I've
this
learned a lot
thing
from them.
till this day,
Exactly.
to sell
Exactly.
out shows whenever they perform. It's
Exactly.
a huge task to be able to maintain that for at least 4 decades.
Exactly. Think about that, man. It's an incredible achievement. So
Yeah,
that's the thing, yeah. And
not with us today, but had he been there, you know, we know what a star he has been and was.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the man was an absolute rock star, man. I have the highest respect for someone like Jagjit Singh. I have a lot of respect even for the Punjabi pop scene, because what they've done is they actually turned the whole scene on its head, because they're the ones who decided that they don't need Bollywood. They're going to do their own thing. They went down the hip hop route, and they kind of produced their own sound, their own music.
Almost every single Punjabi pop song has been Bollywoodized.
Exactly,
Almost every single one of them.
exactly,
Like
exactly.
that just goes to show, I mean, what kind of, scavengers is Bollywood, man? You know what I'm saying? I
Yeah,
mean,
but Bollywood's
although in a good way.
no,
I
no.
mean,
I
in a
agree.
good way.
Look,
Scavengers.
it's
Yeah.
always been like that. It's always been like that. I mean, if salsa is in vogue, they do a Bollywood salsa. If Gloria Estefan Sound Machine had a hit song, they would Bollywoodize it, and it's always been that. Look. I mean, there's two kinds of Bollywood. There's a Bollywood that's genuinely pushing for excellence, and there's a Bollywood that's genuinely trying to just entertain. They just want to entertain you. It's just
Yeah.
like
For
it's
a time.
literally those.
Like,
Yeah, it's just
yeah.
literally time pass.
Those 100 million views in 24 hours anyhow.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Whether they're genuine or paid for, I don't care. As long as I can say 100 million views in 24 hours, I'm sorted.
I'm going to say 100 million when it's not even reached 45 million views. I'm going to put a 100 million views banner. That's what they do. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, who's gonna dispute that?
Yeah,
It's,
it's crazy.
it's amazing. So I mean, people like you and me, we listen to tons and tons of music, constantly listening to music. You as a composer, uh, how many times? I mean, I'm sure there've been many times when you've listened to a song and you say like, "Oh man, I wish I could have written that." You know,
Oh man.
great melody. There's something. What a beautiful song. I mean, it could be the simplest song, and then you think, why couldn't I think of that?
Yeah,
You know, in various ways.
yeah,
I
of
mean, how
course.
often has that happened to you?
Look, not very often. I'll be very honest with you, but when it happens, it's because of the thought of the song. You know, like I remember that happened to me when I heard Jane Osborne's song "What If God Was One of Us."
Or one of us,
Like,
yes.
oh my God, man! What a, I mean, that song's that ability to be able to sum up such a big thought in it was almost like a Neil Gaiman book, you know, in a song.
Ah,
Yeah, it was just beautiful.
it was.
Um, then there's, uh, I mean,
I mean, all the names that you mentioned as songwriters, whether it's Sting or Elton John, you know,
yeah, man, so many of them, so
them.
many of them. I mean, yeah, like the one I can think of most recently is probably Billie Eilish.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was just going to
Yeah,
mention.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
bad guy. It's just three chords, and it's like the most simplistic arrangement ever. But yet, how has it exploded? So, do you attribute that to production?
No, that's just artistry. That's
Hmm.
just artistry. That's raw artistry. Because what's happened is that the production has transcended technique. It's just gone into the realm of pure expression. And that's what happens when you take chances. That's what I'm saying. Think about it. The world is getting more and more stripped down. That song is a stripped down song. I mean,
Absolutely,
the biggest lesson we learned as songwriters in the last 3 years was shape of you. It's one guy with an acoustic guitar and he blows your mind away. I mean, he
absolutely.
has the biggest blockbuster ever. How does that happen? That happens because it's just the purest emotion. You know, it's like literally teeny bop lust packed into one 3 minute song.
No, but then that's Ed Sheeran because he's tapping into that same little busker that he was, standing outside London metro train stations. Even though he's a multimillionaire, he's still tapping into that same independent spirit.
Yeah, but Luke also, I mean, you're absolutely right. I totally agree. And also, you know, he's married that in with in that song with such a ridiculous honesty that's so throwaway. I mean, the hook, the final line on which he resolves the chorus is "I'm in love with your body." That is the most that is the most brazen.
You
That's
know?
incredible. You know, that's absolutely incredible. So I have a lot of respect for. I mean, you know how it is when even when we meet outside of a conversation like this,
Yeah,
we're always discussing the kind of the etymology of songs and the structure of songs and where songs come from and the things that most people miss. You know, I mean, like the idea that Ishq Tera Tadpave, Sukhbir's biggest hit, which is written by Kumar Paji, is the saddest song he's ever written.
yes.
It's it's a it's a guy weeping. He's saying, "Rokh na pawa, akhiyan vichon gham diya barsata nu." Can you imagine? And that's the song
How
that ends.
it's like it's raining grief. Like how can you get?
It's bizarre, man. You know, but it's the song that ends every single Indian party.
And it makes it come alive no matter when you throw it.
Exactly.
And
And
it
I
got
mean,
re as well also.
precisely. And even in the video that they repurposed it in Bollywood, the guy's dancing like a crazy person. You know, I mean, that's the spirit of that song. I mean, it's incredible how it's the most beautiful thing in songs. People don't realize this, but it's the most beautiful thing in songs. In fact, in all art, when two emotions are running almost at cross purposes with each other, but are
Exactly.
working together. It's incredible. You know.
And then of course, and then we have the music video, which generally tends to have no connection to the song whatsoever.
Yeah.
Uh, of Ishq Tera Tadpave. It's a dance off. What's Ishq Tera Tadpave about a dance off with Asian kids in a warehouse?
That's
But it
right. Remember, it was a
wasn't even,
ripoff of a yeah, it was a ripoff of a Jason Nevins video. It's
yeah,
like that. Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
Absolutely,
it
yeah,
was a bit like that.
yeah, yeah. You got Sinbad and all these guys. But it's amazing. I mean, Sukhbir must be so happy to have a song that he's written all those years ago to still be wanted and played and enjoyed by a whole different generation altogether. I mean, that's
For
the
sure.
best thing that a musician could ask for or a songwriter could ask for is for your music to live on in your lifetime.
Absolutely. It's the gift that keeps on giving. It's an incredible feeling.
I mean, it's sad that all the musicians who left us really too early, and if they could see in this digital age how much their music is what value it has, it's just amazing.
Yeah,
It's
it
just
is incredible.
I mean, it's really it's sometimes. I mean, like Little Richard passed away, and now suddenly the whole music world erupted with how much an influence he was. How many of
Yeah.
you guys actually really acknowledge that when he was alive? Except
That's
for
the
Bob Dylan, nobody did.
yeah, that's the saddest part. That's the saddest part, and it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen with more and more artists. I mean, like for example, for me, I mean, one of the biggest influences for me as a songwriter, especially for the more off center stuff, has always been Joni Mitchell. Joni Mitchell for me has been in my life much more important than even someone like Bob Dylan. She's
Amazing.
been very yeah. I mean, she's a not only a great songwriter, but she's a harmonic genius. I mean, she's she's influenced progressive music in every genre, jazz, rock, fusion, all of it.
Absolutely.
So but who's going to talk about that when people are alive? You have to discuss these things when people are here, not when they not I mean, of course you can do it later as well, but
Yeah.
start now. Uh,
But they need to see what the impact that they've left is of certain value to a new generation. It's what
yes.
them some sort of closure to what they've done. I mean,
Yeah.
they've been celebrated in their lifetime when they were popular is one thing. But now when the whole sound has changed and it's a whole new. So yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. But thankfully, Esa Jadoo still gets played in clubs.
Yeah, it does.
The whole crowd really erupts, and I've seen it happen many times. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons what when I go out, when I used to go out back in the old days when we used to party 2 months ago, another 6 months anyway.
Yeah.
So this is the things that I notice as well. Also, when a DJ does a retro Bollywood session, how does today's crowd react to the songs that he's playing? That's one of the observations that I like to make, which is one of the reasons why I go on to these Bollywood clubs, only to see these reactions. I mean, apart from
Mhm.
the fact that a lot of them are getting remixed and reversioned bootlegs really well as well.
Yes, I love the
They're
bootlegs.
doing really good, reversioning justice, not which is not official,
Yeah.
but they're really good as well also. So it's amazing for the audience to accept it. And so it's great that DK Bose
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. My
house down every time. It
yeah.
just the house down, man. Ram, you should be in a club when DK Bose plays. Everybody goes wild. It's great.
Wow.
I'm telling this
Wow.
to other, I mean, people I know who've made songs for films and things like that. Please go to a club when your music is playing and see the people react to it. It's such a great feeling. But anyway, so
Yeah.
it's great.
I should do
But
that. I should do that.
yeah, it's great. So we'll go together when
Yeah,
clubs
for
reopen
sure.
in
For
2027.
sure. For sure.
But there's one aspect that a lot of people don't really talk to you about, and I'd like to talk about that as well, also for people who are listening, for all the people, new generation. There was a time when you put out just one single album called Colorblind. You had a
Mhm.
band called Colorblind. It was one of the greatest indie albums that came out at the time. Great song, great video. Why were there no follow ups to Colorblind?
Okay, so here's what happened after we finished Colorblind. We were rehearsing to go live. The thing is that Colorblind was basically this goes back to the earlier conversation, a part of the conversation where I was telling you that we need to support songwriters, and that was what was happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
Colorblind was not generating any income for me as yet because I had produced the album, I had funded the videos, I had literally pumped all my money into it. At the point when we were supposed to go live, we were rehearsing, and my bandmate Siddharth Achrekar lost his hearing in 1 year. He woke up one night and yeah, he was completely deaf in 1 year, and it's apparently something that is it's genetic or something. I'm not exactly sure what the reason was.
Tinnitus? No.
No, it was like he had a huge, like a ball of pus come out from the back of his eardrum, and he was in a lot of pain, and it was a really tough situation for him.
Uh-huh.
And we immediately had to get shelved because I could not afford to keep the band going for another 3 4 months that it would take for Sid to be able to recover and get back to playing. Because then we realized after a month that playing was out of the question for him because he couldn't even his 1 year was sealed for like 3 or 4 months. This
Mhm.
side was completely capped. So I couldn't, first of all, I couldn't fund it anymore. I couldn't keep it going. The second part was I couldn't imagine doing it without Sid. It just didn't feel right.
Absolutely.
Um, and the third thing that happened, which was the most heartbreaking part of it, was Luke. I don't know if I've shared this with anybody officially, but I'll tell this to you because it's been so long now.
Mhm.
I had got an offer from. I had sent it abroad. to figure out if we could get some publishing and we could get some sort of movement on it, considering it was an English album.
Sure.
So I'd sent it to a UK publisher, and the feedback I got from it was, hey, why don't you do one thing? Why don't you just license us the songs and we'll get some white boys to sing this?
Ah,
Because it's most unlikely that people are going to want to listen to a rock band from India. So you license us the songs, and we'll go ahead and we'll redo this, and you can produce it if you want to, but we'll redo it completely with a band that's non-Indian essentially, and non-brown. So it kind of just snapped at that point. The whole thing just snapped for me. It became very binary. It became like, I've been barking up the wrong tree, and at that point, I was just getting into Tanhadil, and I was getting into that space to try and make some money. I didn't make any money on Tanhadil either, but but yeah, I was back in commercials. I was getting back to running paying the bills, and it something snapped. Yeah, Luke. It just became a tough time for me to be able to pursue that dream, and it became a point to be able to try and focus on my own country, my own culture, maybe learn a little more about my own people, because how it is in Bombay. Sometimes you can forget that there's an India out there. So I just kind of I started listening to I mean, actually it happened to both Sid and me, at the end of the album, because we went from an extremely angsty place from like Blast and Colorblind and those kind of songs.
yeah.
We ended the album with Fragile, because
Uh-huh.
that was where I was when the album got over. I was really at kind of, yeah, I was in a good place. I was very peaceful, and I started listening to much more Thumri, much more Dadra, much more classical. I started going on a slightly different trip, which led me on another album called Let's Talk. But that's a different conversation altogether. But at that point, I stopped. I just tuned out of what was happening on the independent scene, because also, how it is. Very few people actually fund Indian indie music, especially then. It was really, really tough. I mean, there was no digital revolution. There was no way to get the album out to people. The fact of the matter is that we sold quite quite amazingly well, Luke. We sold 10,000 cassettes and 1,000 CDs in less than a month. So I got that part of my money back from Sony, and Sony told me, like, do you want to go into a second print? And that's really when I had this conversation with Sony, and I had this conversation saying, listen, guys, this is working, and I am licensing my music to you. I'm not you have not funded it. You have not. I mean, I'm thankful that you're willing to distribute it for me,
Mhm.
but come on, guys, like, back me a little bit. Just give me a little bit to work with. So I can spend a couple of months not chasing commercials, not chasing other things to pay my bills. But it was the same thing. I had to finally get back to making money.
But now, after all this time has passed, do you see any merit in bringing it all back together again?
Oh yeah, for sure, man. That's exactly what we're doing right now.
Oh,
I don't know if, yeah, 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 yeah.
Ben,
Uh, I
what is
don't
that?
know if,
You
yeah, I
heard it
don't know if,
first. Breaking news. Yeah.
that is true. That is true.
Oh, that's great.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. And
yeah,
maybe
I
like
don't
a
know if,
issue of the album, even if it's digital, it'll be great.
oh
You
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's exactly what we're doing. That's exactly what I'm doing right now. So I'm working with Anurag Rao, our common
Yeah,
crazy
yeah,
friend, Mr.
yeah.
Ragpatti.
Yeah.
So
He
yeah,
does all-
we're working on,
yeah.
yeah, so we're working on getting it out. But
Oh,
he's always been a super supporter here. So I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
he's definitely a sweet guy. Yeah,
he's a
yeah.
darling. Yeah.
Mhm. That's great news. But are you doing it independently again or with
Oh
the
yeah, yeah,
label?
yeah. Independent, independent. It's the same label. It's my original label.
Excellent, excellent. So
Yeah.
the independent spirit continues.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Really amazing. That's really amazing. Uh, you earlier mentioned that towards the end of the making of the Colorblind album, you went into that whole Thumri Dadra space. Is that what led to the making of Sona's first album? Because that was very heavy in that zone.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because also I met Sona just when I was wrapping up Let's Talk, and she was supposed to sing some parts on it. It didn't materialize, but
Hmm.
I found in her voice the sort of potential to be to start off. The starting point was from sort of a younger, uh, in a sense, Shubha Mudgal. She has that kind of sound, that kind of tonal quality, which is really rooted
Yeah.
It's not the typical Bollywood voice, where you have that those really high pitched, uh, glass shattering type of frequencies.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's nice. It was really nice to work on her record because it was it was just a pleasure, man. It was just pop music that we like. I mean, it's just like it's a simple earthier pop music, Indian pop music, and I think hers was probably the last album that had that kind of backing. Sony did a great job on it, and we had quite a
Yeah.
few videos.
Mhm.
And yeah, but after that, I think the whole scene just collapsed until now.
Yeah, but now also labels are not really getting into funding or supporting independent musicians in making in funding the album and making the videos as well also. So we're still back to where it actually started from before indie pop
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, at that level, because you're somebody who understands the music scene so well, I can understand exactly what you're saying. Because at the end of the day, whatever's happening on the indie scene right now is a little drops in an ocean.
yeah.
Whereas it should really start getting backed if you really needed to reach out and compete with
Mhm.
the other mainstream music. I think the streaming platforms are doing their bit. They're seeding the songs well, but I don't think even today anybody's backing independent music the way they ought to be.
Absolutely not.
Yeah,
Absolutely not. I mean, it's still, artists who are still trying to, are funding their music albums from their live gigs. And now, if live gigs are out the window, where are they going to get the money to fund their albums from? And not everybody is, as well off as we'd like to think that they are.
100%, dude. That's been the big problem. I mean, for example, we've had that problem. We've been doing fundraisers. Sona and I raise money for NGOs, and we've been doing our bit. But at the same time, I think the most heartbreaking aspect of this is the fact that most of our musician buddies, are right now seriously contemplating leaving the city, leaving Mumbai, going back home, to wherever they came from because they just can't afford to pay the rent anymore. And everybody anticipates that the live scene is going to be shut for the next year. So if that's going to be the scene, then what happens to live music? What happens to live musicians? What happens to the folk artists of this country? What happens to every single revenue stream, that depends on the live scene to
Mhm.
exist right now? It's a really tough situation right now.
So, what's life like at home now?
Life at home is fun. Yeah, it's good. It's amusing because most of the time, uh, it's one of the most beautiful things that's happened is that I've not been binge watching anything. I don't think we've been binge watching anything. We've been
Really?
yeah, we've gone back to kind of just playing a lot of music, listening to a lot of music, reading a lot of books.
So
I can see your collection of books behind. That's pretty formidable. Yeah,
it's
it's a
the same
great.
thing. I mean, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you don't want to get stuck in front of a screen for a good, 5, 6 hours of your day as well. Also. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, I mean, considering the amount of binge watching that people like you and I have already done, we know that, after a certain point, certain series, they're like, I mean, they're very low yielding returns, especially once they get to the fifth and sixth season, because it's not just a matter of how things start. It's as much a matter of how things end. So
Absolutely.
I mean, so at that level, I would recommend everybody watch Breaking Bad, because it's
Of
lethal.
course,
It's so good.
I finished it. I finished it, and I watched
Yeah.
El Camino, and it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's fantastic. There's not. It's completely lean content. It's fat free. It's incredible.
Most perfect series ever created.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's fabulous. It's really fabulous.
yeah, yeah.
So, but if it's something like that, yeah, sure, invest your time. Or else, I mean, you don't know. By the time you reach season 4, season 5, you're like, man, what are these guys doing? They're just trying to, it's
Mhm.
stretching my time. So
Oh,
I would much rather give that time to a movie right now if I had that choice. So
nice.
yeah, that's my preference.
Yeah, yeah. So, any household chores that you have been assigned to do during this
So
period?
my most successful hashtag on social media has been Bartan Life because I'm on Bartan duty.
I think that's all of us actually.
Yeah. And I've been good at it. I've gotten more efficient. The thing that I'm really proud of is the fact that I've been cooking really well. I've made a few dishes. Yeah. I've been enjoying that. I
Yeah,
don't have a natural ability to cook. I'm really bad at it.
yeah, same here.
Sona's amazing, but at the same time, I've made some good stuff. So I'm kind of proud of myself.
I'm sure you're evolving as well, also, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Do you guys have any pets?
No, we don't have any pets. We're
Okay.
lucky that way because having a pet right now is tough.
About not having a pet.
Oh man, it's right now I can see my
Must
friends
be
struggling with it.
like
It's
having a
tough.
child.
It is, and also, I mean, the truth is that, I mean, I've seen the cops whacking somebody walking their pet, and that was like, I mean, like screaming at them and chasing them. Come on, man, you got to walk a pet. Don't be silly. If it's a dog, you got to take it for a walk.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing how many how many people have gotten whacked by the cops, but we never cry foul about police brutality, right? I mean, they can't. They're not supposed to do that. They can't do that. But then there's no other way of telling the people, they've got to stay indoors.
Yeah, man, it's a tough one for everyone. I feel bad for everybody. I feel very bad for the cops. It's a tough job. They've got virtually no protection. Yeah, and it's a thankless job, dude. Nobody ever says, "Well done, cop." Oh,
So, Ram,
you're
what's
totally
coming up?
right.
What can we look forward to?
Oh
In
man, what's coming up? What's coming up is a lot actually. So what's coming up is a whole bunch of, I think, English and Hindi originals. Yeah, yeah. So I've got my band together. It's pretty tight. We're feeling good about the music. It's mostly live. It's I mean I can't remember the last. I think for the last 2 months we've been recording material off and on,
okay,
and I can't remember sitting in front of a computer screen before the song even once. It's been delightful, dude. It's been amazing. Just I literally sing the song out, play the structure, give the chord charts, and just send it out to my buddies, and they record their
great,
parts. It's just fantastic. It's a great feeling. So that's the kind of music that I'm working on right now. I think there's going to be some material from Colorblind that's been sitting in the archives. That's also going to start coming out now.
great.
So
That's great. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, but it'll be a while
exciting.
to be able to take that music on the road, though. So for now,
Yeah,
it'll
for
just have to
sure.
be, we'll have to just hear it on streaming. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. But that's fine too. I mean, if this is the start of something new, it will be, one step at a time, and that's okay.
Mhm.
Maybe it's a good time to get people familiar with the music. So by the time we hit the road, everybody kind
No,
of knows the music.
exactly. Like I said, it's how it used to happen in the old days. First, the single
Yeah,
came out, and hit the single to death, and then the
exactly.
artist went out on the road saying, "Hey, my song's really popular. Maybe I should perform this live."
Exactly. It's
It's a
beautiful.
good time for things to go full circle.
Yeah, it is.
Fantastic. All right, I think we've spent a good, really good time talking, and
Yeah.
thank you for taking out the time to do this. It's going to be a great first episode, and I'm really, really, again, I'll say this again. Uh, I'm so glad that you're the first person that I spoke to, and we're kicking this off with you. And there's some great insights and great thoughts that you put out there. And I'm sure the listeners are going to enjoy watching you talk, listening to you talk. More importantly, listening, because these are the listening sessions by the
Yeah.
Economic Times. Thank you very much, Ram Sampath. More power to you, and big hello to Sona.
Thank you, man. It's an honor to be your first guest. Love you as always, and yeah, big love from Sona and me, man. Take care.
Bye bye. The Economic Times listening sessions with Luke Kenny, powered by Jack Daniels Merchandise.